Fighting games have come a long way. Moreover, the people who play them have too. With the rise of esports, you got people playing fighting games competitively for big money as a job. I've been told my strategy ain't gonna cut the mustard anymore. Well, I suppose I could just press the buttons even harder. Still no, but why not? It worked against my younger cousin back in the 90s. Truth is, you gotta use your brain if you wanna be really good at fighting games. I know. Boo, am I right? Whatever happened to just having fun without worrying about being good at it? Like life. The unfortunate thing is that the high skill ceiling of the competitive fighting game scene can scare people away, despite some games trying their best to be more friendly to beginners, and YouTubers like Maximilian Dude, love that dude, advocating for better accessibility features and modes. These games can still feel like trying to learn another language. Heck, for some people, they can feel more complicated than real fighting. Most real fights end after one punch. People don't realize you gotta block your face. So, there's a tip for you: protect your face. The truth is that even among the people who play fighting games competitively, very few of them are going to ever be good enough to get far in the competitive scene. If you want to play these games more casually, you've got nothing to be embarrassed about. And if for some reason you are, just don't tell anybody. Lie if you have to. Who's gonna know? Playing casually can be a lot more fun in certain ways too. Look at the people who play competitively. Does that look like fun to you? I've had more fun at the dentist. Come to think of it, I laugh my butt off at the dentist. Playing casually can always lead to getting better at the game anyways. Your first goal should always be to love the experience of playing, regardless of your aspirations. I should also note that some of the games on my list are not exclusively for casual play. They can be played competitively, I just think they can still be just as much fun when played casually. And with that, let's start with number 5, which would be Street Fighter 2, the oldest fighting game that people still tolerate. Not only tolerate, but love, like your grandpa who's got sassy jokes. Specifically, I want to highlight Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, the version I'd recommend, but really, if you're going the casual route, you can play just about any version of Street Fighter 2. And the endless memes and jokes can verify there's quite a few options. This game isn't just about respecting a classic and what the game did for the fighting game genre though. It's still really fun. There's great variety and balance, the special moves are mostly pretty doable, and because the characters are so iconic at this point, it's a lot of fun to try them all out and see what clicks with you, especially if you're playing with a friend. But the arcade mode is a lot of fun too, and because the characters all feel pretty fresh in relation to each other, I always feel compelled to dive back into the game and try to have fun with a different character. Okay, now in the spirit of this being a list for casuals, I'm going to list a closely related alternate for each game. For Street Fighter 2, I'm going to also mention Vampire Savior. It's kind of like Street Fighter, but not, and not in a diet soda kind of way. If you're looking for something a little different, but still solid Capcom fighting bliss at its best, then here you go. Oh, and it's sometimes referred to as the Darkstalkers series, FYI. At number 4, I have Fighters Mega Mix. That's right, Sega fans, it's time to boogie on down. It's the game that's like Virtua Fighter gone crazy. Anyone who's played this game before needs no further convincing. There are people who have had a blast with this game, and then there are people who have never played it. The thing about fighting games is that nobody likes getting their butt whooped. But if you had to choose between getting your butt whooped by a character that looks like this, or a bear in a safari hat, yeah, I'm not gonna speak for you, but I'd choose the bear. Of course, you can also be the bear whooping somebody's butt too. Or the car from Daytona. Yes, that's right. This game is awkward in all the right ways. And as somebody who prides himself in awkwardness, you can see how I'd be such an advocate for it. Just play it, you'll have a blast. As an alternate, there is Fighting Vipers, similar in its goofy nature, not quite as good of a roster in my opinion, but an additional option nonetheless. Next, at number 3, we have Power Stone, the game that some people would say isn't traditional enough to be considered a true fighting game, but lucky for us, this is a list for casuals, so we're good to go. And while we're at it, play Rocket Knight Adventures, why not? In this game, it's all about trying to hold all 3 Power Stones at the same time, because it gives you a temporary but massive power-up. This is key. Allow me to use bananas to demonstrate. 1 nanner good, 2 nanners better, 3 nanners, now you can do anything. 0 nanners, total loser. You collect the stones by either finding them scattered around the map or beating them out of your opponent, making the game very momentum-based, with a constant sense of tension to collect the Power Stones. A fun kind of tension, though. Not tension like wondering how close this knife will get before I cut to the next shot. There are various items and weapons laying around the stages that you can use, and you might feel like it was inspired by Super Smash Bros. At times, but what's interesting is that the 2 games came out around the same time for their initial debut in Japan. In any case, it's a lot of fun to play and a pretty easy recommendation for fans of Super Smash Bros. Having items and so many variables affect the outcome is often frustrating for those who are taking a fighting game really seriously, but lucky for us, we are not. Have a sense of humor about it, and remember to hunt down those Power Stones like your life depends on it, because it does. They can really tilt the odds in your favor, and I absolutely love some of the super moves you can do. As an alternate, I'm going to recommend Power Stone 2, which ups the number of players to 4 and makes it feel more like a chaotic party game. At number 2, speaking of games that will appeal to fans of Super Smash Bros., we have Super Smash Bros. I feel like kind of a dork recommending such an obvious choice, but it does need to be on here. I mean, if I didn't, then what's next? A list of awesome things to collect that doesn't include bread bag clips? Honestly, Smash is probably number 1 for a lot of people, but it's my list and I do what I want. I hit the snooze button twice on my alarm this morning. Now, right off the bat, I should point out that while I chose Super Smash Bros. Melee, a lot of people may just want to go for the newer Smash Ultimate if they prefer the massive roster. But I'd still like to highlight Melee because even all these years later, it just feels so darn snappy and good to play. And yeah, it's a favorite among tournament players, but it's still a lot of fun for casuals. The unique requirement for unlocking different stages and characters is highly enjoyable, and if you've been playing Smash Ultimate to death in recent years, which, going off sales numbers, some of you definitely have, then give Melee another whirl. Heck, you can even turn the items on since we're going casual. But with that, it's now time for my number 1 choice, which is Street Fighter Alpha 3. This is the game that, I recommend a good movie mixed in with fighting games. Take some of the edge off, you know? But in addition to Alpha 3, you could also go with Alpha 2, as it's considered to be more balanced and tends to be more highly regarded in the competitive scene, but for casual players, Alpha 3 is just a ton of fun. Sure, it has broken mechanics that can be exploited and make competitive play sort of wonky, but for casual play, who cares? It's fun. It has an awesome roster that includes all the original Street Fighter II characters, in addition to the characters introduced in Alpha, and a whole bunch of game modes, including what you're seeing here called Dramatic Battle. This is so much fun. It essentially lets you do various 2 versus 1 scenarios however you'd like. With so much packed into this game, it just feels like a love letter to fans of classic Street Fighter. Perhaps the most well-known classic fighting series there is, delivered with beautiful 2D sprite work, which who knows if we'll ever see again for this series. Enough nuance within the fighting mechanics to feel like there's a lot on the bone, tons of cool super moves, room for either simple or more advanced combos, all while still being accessible to people who just want to throw fireballs and do dragon punches, or mash buttons. As somebody who has been casually playing and loving fighting games since I was a kid, I feel this is a very deserving #1 choice. Oh, and for what it's worth, Vampire Savior that I recommended earlier is probably closer to the alpha games than the original Street Fighter 2. But let me know what you thought of my list. If you came in looking for recommendations, I feel confident you'll enjoy at least one of the games I mentioned. I'd say there's even a good chance that some of you will enjoy all of them. Fighting games really are easy to get into and start enjoying if you rid yourself of any expectations to be good at them. Honestly, play any fighting game with somebody you like and it's hard to go wrong. Play with somebody you don't like and even the best game might not be able to save the experience, unless you're repeatedly destroying them, I guess. So there we have it. Let me know your thoughts down below and I will see ya in the next video.
He's the retro bird, yeah. And he's talking about video games. He's the retro